Namaste friends, I hope you are doing fine. Have you tried connecting to a MySQL database through Excel or any other application like Power BI? All applications follow a certain protocol which assists you to connect to a database and pull data from it. Let me demonstrate with an example. I have Microsoft Excel installed on my computer for all types of data processing activities. I also have MySQL installed which stores all my data. I would like to build a bridge between Excel and MySQL which will help both applications to communicate with each other. Excel needs to provide the necessary authentication credentials to access the MySQL database. This includes providing a valid username and password that have appropriate privileges to access the desired data. Excel formulates a query to retrieve the desired data from the MySQL database. The query can be written in structured query language, the standard language for interacting with relational databases, also known as SQL. Excel initiates the process by establishing a connection to the MySQL database. Upon receiving the query, MySQL processes it and retrieves the relevant data from the database tables. MySQL then prepares the data for transmission back to Excel. This involves converting the data into a suitable format that Excel can understand and process, such as a table or a result set. MySQL sends the prepared data back to Excel over the established connection. Once Excel receives the data from MySQL, it integrates it into the Excel worksheet or workbook. Excel can populate specific cells, create tables, or even update existing data based on the received information. I am Subhojit and I welcome you to our multi-part video tutorial series on connecting to a MySQL database using various applications. In this first part, we will explore how to establish a connection using Open Database Connectivity, aka ODBC. In this video, we will cover the following topics. Create a schema in MySQL Workbench and import a CSV file to create a table. Create an user and grant privileges. Create an ODBC connection using the new user credentials and test it. Use the ODBC connection in Excel to connect to the table and pull the data onto an Excel sheet. Use the ODBC connection in Power BI to connect to the table and pull the data into a data model. Towards the end of the video, I have a special bonus tip for you. Make sure to stick around till the end to catch this valuable nugget of information that will take your skills to the next level. I understand that your time is valuable, so I have also included timestamps in the video description. Whether you want to revisit a specific technique or skip to the bonus tip, the timestamps will serve as your navigation guide. I am using MySQL Workbench 8.0, which I downloaded and installed from the link dev.mysql.com/downloads/workbench. On this page, you have to select the operating system installed on your computer. In my case, it is Microsoft Windows. And I am using the 64-bit MSI installer. If you are unsure of the bit size of Windows, you can click on Start, Settings, System, and in the left-hand menu, you can click on About. In the About page, if you look at the value on system type, it's 64-bit operating system. If it is a 32-bit operating system, this will appear as 32-bit. After you have downloaded MySQL Workbench, you have to download and install the MySQL ODBC connector. Here again, you have to select the operating system on this page, dev.mysql.com/downloads/connector/ODBC. Similarly, you will find 32-bit, 64-bit installer over here. You have to download the 64-bit MSI installer. Once you download it and run the executable file, you have to follow the on-screen instructions. Once it is installed, it will create a connection called localhost, which is the default one for your system, and a default schema called sys. The second schema that you see over here in the schemas pane is the one which I have created for myself. I'll right click over here in this pane and click on create schema. I'll have to provide a name for the new schema, which is trial underscore schema. And I have to click on apply. I don't have to click on any other options over here. This will execute the create schema command. I'll click on apply. I have received a message says SQL script was successfully applied to the database. And in the schemas pane, you will now see a new schema called trial underscore schema. I'll click on finish. If I click on this arrow over here, it has added the components, tables, views, stored procedures, functions. There is an action output window in which it will show what action has been taken and what is the outcome of that particular action. The next step is to create a table in this new schema. I'll come to the schemas pane, right click on the tables component and select table data import wizard. I have to provide the path of the CSV file in the file path box. I'll click on next. I want to create a new table under the schema trial underscore schema, and the name of the table will be trial underscore data. I don't have to select any other options over here because this is the first table that I'm creating. I'll click on next. The table data import wizard will show me a preview of the names of the columns present in the CSV file, the data type of the data present in the columns, and the actual data over here, which I can check for errors and rectify them accordingly. I'll click on next. It will show me two tasks which it will perform and request me to click on next. I click on next and there is a progress bar which is showing up over here. The time taken to import the data will be dependent on the number of rows and columns present in the CSV file. The higher the number of rows and columns, the greater the time it will take to import. It is still importing. Finally, the data is imported and it is asking me to click on next. It gives a summary of what actions it has taken. It uploaded the data from this particular file path in 77.341 seconds. Trial underscore data was created and 2307 records have been imported into this particular table. I'll click on finish and I can see all the actions that have been taken in the action output pane. The table is not visible over here, so I just have to right click on the tables component and click on refresh all. And this is the table which got created. These are the column names. Any point of time, if I don't want to see these actions, I can right click over here and click on clear. It will clear out the output pane so that the next set of actions are displayed over here. The next step that we will do is to create an ID. Chances are that you have an administrator in your office who does this for you. But since this is my own laptop, or you will be practicing on your personal laptop, these 5 lines will be very helpful to you when you create a username to access this particular database. Create user. The username is trial1 at, this is the connection, with the password welcome at 123. And you are supposed to grant all privileges to this particular user ID on this particular connection with grant option. There is a button over here. When you click on it, all these lines will be executed in one go. I'll click on it and you can see the execution in the action output window. Let me resize this window. I will click on this button and we can see the execution of all the commands in the action output window. The message is 0 rows affected, which is fine. There are no errors in it. Before we proceed, you can help me boost my confidence. Please like the video if you like the video. You can subscribe to the channel to get notified on new content. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Share the video with your friends and colleagues. The next step would be to create a connection using this user ID and password. I'll click on the search bar, type Windows admin, and I'll open Windows Administrative Tools. In my case, my user ID on Windows is administrator, so I don't have to run this particular application as administrator, which is this option over here. I can just click on open and it will work. But if the Windows ID and password which you are using is not an administrator, you will have to use this option, put in the administrator user ID and password, and then open this particular app. I'll click on open. And over here, I can see two ODBC data sources. One is 32-bit and 64-bit. On my laptop, Windows is 64-bit, like I showed a couple of minutes ago. I'll double click on 64-bit. I'll be taken to the ODBC data source administrator, which has user DSN, system DSN, file DSN, etc. I'll click on system DSN. Whatever you create over here will be available for all the users who will be logging in on this particular laptop or desktop. I'll click on add, and in the create new data source window, I can see MySQL ODBC drivers listed over here. I will use Unicode driver. Now I'll click on finish. Here I have to enter the information which I have for the database. I'll name this connection as trial underscore connection. The TCP IP server is the connection name which we have in MySQL. In my case, it is localhost. If you are unsure of what to use, you can come to MySQL Workbench, click on server, and click on server status. This will show you whether the server is running or whether it is stopped. And here you will find the host name, the port. By default, it is 3306. And you can use that information over here. I have used localhost because I am the administrator and this is the default connection that I have created. Here, the username will be trial1, which we just created. And I'll enter the password as well. And then click on test. The connection is successful. And when I click on this drop down in front of database, I can select one database as default. Sys, performance schema, information schema, MySQL, these are system databases which are generated by default. Swachalan is the one which I had already created, and trial schema is the one which I have created a couple of minutes ago. I'll click on trial schema. So this is the default database which this connection will use. I'll click on OK, and it will be listed over here, MySQL ODBC 8.0 Unicode driver, and the name of the connection is trial underscore connection. I'll click on OK. Now I'll open Excel. I have opened Excel and I will be using that particular connection which I created just now to link to that particular table. I'll click on data, get data from other sources, from ODBC. Data source name, I have to select trial underscore connection. I'll click on OK. This will communicate with the database. Enter the username and password we just created and click on connect. This will connect to the database, and in the navigator window we will be able to see all the schemas that are available since we are the administrator. I'll click on trial schema, trial data, and it will give a preview of the data within that table. I'll click on transform. Power Query has imported the data from that particular table and displayed it over here. I'll click on close and load. And the data is pushed onto an Excel worksheet. This is how I connect to the ODBC connection using Excel. I have opened Power BI. I'll click on Get Data, More, and in the search box, I'll type ODBC. This is the ODBC connector. In the drop down, I'll select Trial Connection, click on OK. Like Excel, I will have to provide the username and password. I'll do that real quick. And I'll click on Connect. This will again give me a preview of the schema and the tables that are available in the database. I'll select trial underscore data and click on load. So it's loading the data into the model. Once the data loads, it will be available in the right hand pane on the data tab. So this is the table and these are the columns in that particular table. Now let's dive into the bonus tip that I have prepared for you. Trust me, it's worth the wait. This extra piece of information will provide you with an additional strategy or insight that you don't want to miss. I am back in Excel and I'll click on Data menu, Get Data, From Database, and over here you will find the option From MySQL Database. I'll click on it. It will load the .NET framework. And give me this error message, which is this connector requires one or more additional components to be installed before it can be used. I will try the same step in Power BI. I'll click on Get Data, More. In the list of connectors, I have MySQL database. I'll click on Connect. And it gives me the same message that we saw in Excel. I'll click on Learn More. It takes me to the MySQL Community Downloads link for connector.NET 8.0.33, which is the latest version. Here I have the Microsoft Windows operating system. However, over here we will find only a 32-bit MSI installer. There is no 64-bit. I'll download this and install. I've reopened Excel. I'll click on Data, Get Data, From Database, MySQL Database. and I'm getting the same error message on screen. I checked on various forums for this particular error and I found that on this same link I have the archives section. From this I can download a version which is lesser than what the current version is. I click on this drop down and these are all the versions of the .NET connector that are available on the site. And all of these are 32-bit because it works with 64-bit as well. So I tried downloading a couple of them and installing it on my system, and I found that 8.0.28 is the one which works on my system. So if I go to add remove programs, this is 8.0.28 which is installed. I go to Excel and I try connecting using the MySQL connector once again. I enter the server name. And the database. I'll click on OK. And now I am able to get the preview of the table and the data within it. I can click on transform data, make any changes if required, and close and load it onto the Excel worksheet. I'll try the same in Power BI. I'll click on my SQL database, connect, give the server name, give the database name, click on OK. And here I have to click on database and give the user ID. In Excel, I had already done that, therefore it did not ask me. Click on connect. And now it gives me a preview of the table. I can select it and click on load, and this will load into the data model. That concludes part 1 of our series. In this segment, we explored the process of connecting to a MySQL database using ODBC. Stay tuned for the next part where we will delve into connecting using VBA code. Remember, mastering these connection techniques opens up a world of abilities for data analysis. I hope this video added another tool to your data analysis toolkit. We will meet again in another exciting video very soon. Stay tuned, bye bye, and take care.